Hello everyone, and welcome back to Logic Queen's Book Reviews. My name is Logic Queen, and I've got a new book for us to look at today. Today's book is called The Healer's Apprentice. It's by Melanie Dickerson, and it was a pretty good book. It was recommended to me by a friend, and so that's why I've started with this one. I didn't really have a plan for this one for a book bingo, so I've decided to put it under your choice for a book bingo, because that can be any book, and this was a quick read, recommended like I said, so that's the spot I've chosen for it. So The Healer's Apprentice is a take on the fairy tale Sleeping Beauty, which actually took me a really long time to figure out. I thought it was Beauty and the Beast for the longest time, but it is actually Sleeping Beauty. It is written by a Christian author, so of course it has Christian themes throughout, and it takes place in Germany in 1386. So that makes it a historical fiction, and this book highlights the class differences of that time. The book is primarily about a romance between a peasant girl and the Duke's son. This is, of course, a very vague summary. If you want to learn more about it, you can look up a summary of it online, and it'll give you a little bit more in depth. But I just wanted to be sure, I didn't spoil anything, and I'll get into a little bit more of what it's about during the review. So, of course, we'll go through our sections: relationships, words, things that happened, and feels. Relationships. Of course, this is a romance novel, so it's got romance in it. But I would say that all the romance in it is very clean. There are some kisses, but I think that it remains very clean, and it really doesn't talk about it a whole lot. Like, there's not paragraphs and paragraphs about it. So, I think it's pretty good. There are some mentions of men misusing women because, it's that time period. That's something that the women feared, and that just was a common occurrence back then. And so I feel like there's a lot of mentions in the book about that happening, or might have possibly happening. And there are two scenes where a woman is captured by a man. And I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. But in both scenes, the woman gets away, and it's not really a big thing. So, all of that being said, I feel like this is a 4 out of 5 stars for relationships. Like I said, all the romance was very clean, and, very good on the romance front. Okay, words. So since this is a Christian book, there is no language in it, which I love. No language, excellent. I'd say it's not too hard of a read, but there were some words that I didn't know in it, and I think it's just because of the time period it's written from. I've not read a lot of historical fiction from that time period, so there were some words I didn't know, such as wimple. I had no idea what a wimple was, so it's actually the head covering of a nun, but I'm like, well, what in the world is that? And so there were just a few things like that. There also is some German and Latin in it, but those do not take away from the story. It just kind of emphasizes that's the time period. You don't have to know how to read German and Latin to enjoy the book. If the translation's needed, the translation is given. I'd say that this book is probably meant for an older audience, but reading level is probably around 7th, 8th grade. Like I said, there were a few words I didn't know, so that made me feel like it's a little higher, but I think a lot of that is just because I'm not used to reading historical fiction from that time period. And so words, 5 out of 5 stars. Very well. Very well written. Okay, things that happened. There's a lot to unpack here in this section. So the main villain is an evil man who is after a girl, and this evil man is possessed by evil spirits. So the book says you have a few scenes from his point of view that confirm that. And so I just want to make you aware of that, make anyone who wants to read that is something that is in the book. And he does cast these evil spirits into spaces. There is one scene where he casts them into the girl's room. And so then the girl, during her dream, she has nightmares and she sees them. I would say, this was a big thing for me while reading the book, because I did not know that was in there. It is all handled very well. Like, the end of the book, that's all taken care of, and I think that the way that is taken care of was very well done. While I'm thinking about it too, there was a scene when, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but when that man dies, there is this black mist that comes out of him, I think. And so then I feel like that is like the most my imagination really did that well. And so of all the things, that was probably like the scariest part, I guess. But anyway, that's about the only thing in the book that bothered me. Continuing on, the girl is the healer's apprentice, and so of course there is some mention of blood and open wounds, but I feel like it's all very clean. Like, I'm pretty squeamish. I've read some books where it goes too far into detail on that for me, and so I feel like this was very good. Like, I could read it no problem. A few people do die in the book, 3 I think, but it's nothing too bad. There's nothing gory, and it's not like we had an investment in those characters. And so it's not really a huge deal, to me anyway, but I just wanted to put that in here because it could be something that people want to know. And then going along with that, a man is sentenced to death for killing someone. That is all resolved. To see how that was resolved, of course, read the book. But anyway, I don't think that's a big deal, but that is something else that's in there, a thing that happened. And so on things that happened, I would give it 2 out of 5 stars, mostly for that first thing, because like I said, that's something that was a bigger deal for me, and it's just a scarier element that I didn't expect to be in there. But again, resolved very well, but we're going to stick with 2 out of 5 stars. Okay, and then our last section is feels. The book had a satisfying ending. I will say that. I won't tell you how it ended, but it was good. And so that makes it, makes me feel good. Of course, there were some dark things in the book, but I've already mentioned those things. And then that man that I was talking about, there are a few scenes from his POV, but I mean, they're very short, and it's not his death scene or anything. Overall, I think this is a very good book, and I would definitely recommend it, but I would warn about some of the darker things that are in the book. Just be like, this is in there. It's okay. It's resolved well, but this is something that the book contains. And so on feels, I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, this is the final review. It's got the stars from each section that I would give it, and the final scoring, I would rate it 3 out of 5 stars on my scale. Again, I think it was a good book, but there were just some things in it that I didn't care for as much, and that's totally fine. And I think part of why I would give it a lower scoring is because I've read some other books by this author, and they did not have some of that stuff in it, and I really liked them. And so when I read that in this book, I was a little disappointed. I'm like, this is not what I thought would be in here. Okay, so my closing thoughts. Well, this book is good. It's not my favorite by the author. This book feels a little bit more grown-up than some of the other books I've read, so of course I would call it a young adult novel. I very much think it is. And it has a few scenes that I don't love, but there are also other scenes in the book that I would read over and over again. Like, they were really good. So overall, it's a very good book, very well written, and clean, which is, very good. It's great for all the romance and fairy tale lovers out there. I would recommend this book, probably ages 14 plus, just because, it feels a little bit older, and the reading level feels just maybe a little bit higher. Again, a lot of that's probably just the historical context that I wasn't used to, but yeah, that is my review. And so let's recap Book Bingo. We now have 1 square, just the center one, your choice, but that's okay because I'm going to get to reading and we're going to get some other squares marked off soon. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this review.